Good morning and welcome back again. Now, as I told you in the last lecture, that I'm going to teach you the 2 point from this syllabus of remedial biology, and basically I'm going to teach you the 2 points from the unit first. तर पहिला पॉइंट जो होता जो मी मागच्या लेक्चरमध्ये शिकवला दॅट वॉज द बायनॉमियल नॉमेनक्लेचर सिस्टीम आणि आज दुसरा पॉइंट जो पहिल्या युनिटमधला मी कव्हर करणार आहे दॅट इज द 5 किंगडम क्लासिफिकेशन. This was on the point which actually I want to explain you, that is the 5 kingdom classification. So this is the first slide in concern of saying that is the 5 kingdom classification. Basically, this 5 kingdom classification was proposed by R.H. Whittaker in the year of 1969. R.H. Whittaker is the scientist who has been given this particular concept of 5 kingdom classification of the life or the living organism. Means, according to this classification, the living organism or whatever the living organism which is present in our ecosystem, जे काही लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम्स आहेत आपल्या इकोसिस्टम मधल्या, दॅट लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम्स दे आर क्लासिफाईड इन टू द 5 किंगडम्स. आणि हे क्लासिफिकेशन कोणी दिलेलं आहे? दिस क्लासिफिकेशन इज बेसिकली गिवन बाय scientist R.H. Whittaker in the year of 1969. Actually, Whittaker has classified the living organisms which are present in the ecosystem. Whittakerने लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम्सला 5 किंगडम मध्ये क्लासिफाय केलेलं आहे. अँड फॉर दिस क्लासिफिकेशन इन टू द 5 डिफरंट किंगडम्स ही हॅज बीन मेक अ यूज ऑफ अँड द सर्टन क्रायटेरिया. काही असे क्रायटेरियाच्या आधारावर त्यांनी या 5 किंगडम मध्ये लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझमचं क्लासिफिकेशन केलेलं आहे. सो ट्राय टू अंडरस्टँड व्हॉट आय वॉन्ट टू एक्सप्लेन इन दिस पर्टिक्युलर presentation. Student, in this particular presentation, I am going to teach you about the 5 kingdom classification of the living organism. This particular concept of the 5 kingdom classification of a living organism was given by Whittaker in the year of 1969. And for this classification, he has been make a use of and the 5 different criteria. 5 प्रकाराचा क्रायटेरियांचा वापर करून हा 5 किंगडम मधला क्लासिफिकेशन त्यांनी केलेला आहे. ते 5 प्रकाराचे क्रायटेरिया कुठले? पहिला क्रायटेरिया जे त्यांनी सिलेक्ट केला होता फॉर दिस 5 किंगडम क्लासिफिकेशन दॅट इज कॉल्ड ॲज कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी ऑफ द सेल स्ट्रक्चर. म्हणजे त्यांनी हे जे 5 किंगडम मध्ये क्लासिफिकेशन केलेलं आहे त्यांनी 5 क्रायटेरियाच्या आधारावर हे क्लासिफिकेशन केलेलं आहे. तर त्यातला पहिला क्रायटेरिया आहे कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी ऑफ द सेल स्ट्रक्चर. लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम मध्ये असणारं जे सेल स्ट्रक्चर आहे त्या सेल स्ट्रक्चरच्या आधारावर त्यांनी हे क्लासिफिकेशन केलेलं आहे. दॅट इज प्रोकॅरियोटिक सेल्स अँड द युकॅरियोटिक सेल्स. तर पहिला जे क्रायटेरिया आहे दॅट इज द कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी ऑफ द सेल स्ट्रक्चर. अँड ऑन दिस बेसिस ऑफ क्रायटेरिया ही हॅज बीन क्लासिफाईड the microorganism basically into the 2 groups, that is the prokaryotic cells and the eukaryotic cells. आता prokaryotic cells म्हणजे काय? Prokaryote. Pro stand for false, karyot stands for nucleus. म्हणजे असे ऑर्गॅनिझम ज्यांच्यामध्ये फॉल्स न्यूक्लियस असतो. असे ऑर्गॅनिझम ज्यांच्यामध्ये फॉल्स न्यूक्लियस असतो, ज्यांच्यामध्ये ट्रू न्यूक्लियस प्रेझेंट राहत नाही. लक्षात असू द्या. The prokaryotic cells are the cells which are lacking of the distinct nucleus and other organelles due to the absence of internal membrane. प्रोकॅरियोटिक सेल्स म्हणजे कुठले सेल्स? असे सेल्स की ज्यांच्यामध्ये ओरिजिनल न्यूक्लियस किंवा आपण म्हणून ट्रू न्यूक्लियस हा प्रेझेंट नसतो. मीन्स दे आर हॅव्हिंग द फॉल्स न्यूक्लियस. दे आर हॅव्हिंग द फॉल्स न्यूक्लियस. तर प्रोकॅरियोटिक सेल्सचं जर का डेफिनेशन विचारलं तर प्रोकॅरियोटिक सेल्स म्हणजे काय? The cells which are lacking of the distinct nucleus and other organelles due to the absence of the internal membrane, such a cells are called as prokaryotic cells. त्याचप्रमाणे eukaryotic cell. Eukaryotic cell म्हणजे काय? यू म्हणजे ट्रू आणि कॅरियोट म्हणजे न्यूक्लियस. ट्राय टू अंडरस्टँड व्हॉट आय वॉन्ट टू एक्सप्लेन. eukaryotic cell. आता eukaryotic cell या शब्दाचा अर्थ काय होतोय? जस्ट अ मिनिट. यू means true and karyot means nucleus. असे ऑर्गॅनिझम ज्यांच्यामध्ये ट्रू न्यूक्लियस अवेलेबल असतो. मीन्स these are the organisms or any cells which is having a clearly defined nucleus. A cell which is having a clearly defined nucleus, such a cell is called as the eukaryotic cell, while the cell which is not having a clearly defined nucleus is called as the prokaryotic cell. Pro means false and u means true. Understand? आता प्रोकॅरियोटिक सेलचे जर एक्झाम्पल सांगितले तर बॅक्टेरिया इज द बेस्ट एक्झाम्पल ऑफ द प्रोकॅरियोटिक सेल. आणि युकॅरियोटिक मध्ये जर का सांगितले The fungi, protozoa, plants and animals, they are the examples of the eukaryotic cell. तर हा झाला पहिला क्रायटेरिया, दॅट इज कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी ऑफ द सेल स्ट्रक्चर. दुसरा क्रायटेरिया जे विटेकरने वापरलं होतं, दॅट इज द कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी ऑफ द ऑर्गॅनिझम. Organisms are classified into the two particular categories, that is the unicellular and the multicellular. युनिसेल्युलर ऑर्गॅनिझम अँड मल्टीसेल्युलर ऑर्गॅनिझम. नावावरूनच आपल्याला कळतंय युनिसेल्युलर ऑर्गॅनिझम म्हणजे असे ऑर्गॅनिझम विच वर हॅव्हिंग अ सिंगल सेल. असे ऑर्गॅनिझम ज्यांच्याकडे फक्त एकच सेल सिस्टीम असते अँड दे आर परफॉर्मिंग ऑल देअर फंक्शन्स विथ द हेल्प ऑफ दिस सिंगल सेल. ट्राय टू अंडरस्टँड. युनिसेल्युलर ऑर्गॅनिझमचा अर्थ काय होतोय? द ऑर्गॅनिझम विच इज हॅव्हिंग अ सिंगल सेल अँड विच परफॉर्म ऑल द फंक्शन्स दॅट आर रिक्वायर्ड बाय द ऑर्गॅनिझम्स. Means that single cell system is responsible for performing all the functions of the organisms. The example of the unicellular organism is a bacteria, protist, yeast. These are the examples of the unicellular organism. त्याच्याच अगेन्स्ट मध्ये मल्टीसेल्युलर, नेम इटसेल्फ इंडिकेटिंग, means these are the organisms which were having the multiple cells. असे organism which were having the multiple cells and they are making a use of this multiple cells to perform the functions which are required by the organisms. Various numbers of the cells are available in the organism and all the cells they are collectively working in order to carry out the various different functions, in order to carry out the various different functions of the organism. Such a cells are called as the multicellular organism. The student नावावरूनच आपल्या लक्षात येत आहे युनिसेल्युलर आणि मल्टीसेल्युलर. युनिसेल्युलरचा अर्थ काय होतोय की असे ऑर्गॅनिझम ज्यांच्यामध्ये फक्त सिंगल सेल सिस्टीम आहे आणि मल्टीसेल्युलर ऑर्गॅनिझम म्हणजे असे ऑर्गॅनिझम्स विच आर हॅव्हिंग द मल्टिपल सेल्स टू कॅरी आउट और टू परफॉर्म द वेरियस फंक्शन्स ऑफ द ऑर्गॅनिझम. तर हा दुसरा क्रायटेरिया होता, दॅट इज द कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी ऑफ ऑर्गॅनिझम. थर्ड क्रायटेरिया इज मोड ऑफ न्यूट्रिशन. Third criteria is mode of nutrition. On the mode of nutrition, organisms are classified again into the two groups, that is the autotrophs and the heterotrophs. Try to understand. तिसरा क्रायटेरिया कुठला आहे? मोड ऑफ न्यूट्रिशन. आणि मोड ऑफ न्यूट्रिशनच्या आधारावर organisms are classified into the two groups, that is the autotrophic group and the heterotrophic group. Autotrophs म्हणजे कुठले? Plants, fungi, they are said to be at the autotrophic. Heterotrophic कुठले? Animals, animals are said to be the heterotrophic organism. आता ऑटोट्रॉप आणि हेटेरोट्रॉप याचा अर्थ काय होतोय? ऑटोट्रॉप ऑर्गॅनिझम म्हणजे असे ऑर्गॅनिझम्स विच इज एबल टू फॉर्म द nutritional organic substances from the simple inorganic substances. Autotrophic organisms are the organisms which are having an ability to produce or to develop the nutritional organic substances from the simple inorganic substances, while heterotrophic organisms are the organisms which are not able to produce their own nutritional organic substances. जे स्वतःचं न्यूट्रिशनल ऑर्गॅनिक सबस्टन्सेस तयार करू शकत नाही अशा ऑर्गॅनिझम्सला म्हटलं गेलंय हेटेरोट्रॉपिक. आणि ऑटोट्रॉपिक म्हणजे जे स्वतःचं ऑटोट्रॉपिक. तर लक्षात घ्या, ऑटोट्रॉपिक ऑर्गॅनिझम्स म्हणजे कुठले? द ऑर्गॅनिझम्स विच आर एबल टू प्रोड्यूस देअर ओन न्यूट्रिशनल ऑर्गॅनिक सबस्टन्सेस फ्रॉम द इनऑर्गॅनिक सबस्टन्सेस सच एज द कार्बन डायऑक्साइड. ओके, नाउ व्हॉट आय वॉन्ट टू से, जर अजून याला सिम्प्लिफाईड मॅनर मध्ये जर मला एक्सप्लेन करायचं असेल तर ऑटोट्रॉपिक ऑर्गॅनिझम म्हणजे सेल्फ फिडिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम. ऑटोट्रॉपिक म्हणजे सेल्फ फिडिंग आणि हेटेरोट्रॉपिक म्हणजे दे आर हॅव्हिंग द अदर सोर्सेस फॉर द फिडिंग. हेटेरोट्रॉपिक म्हणजे दे आर हॅव्हिंग द अदर सोर्स ऑफ द फिडिंग. ट्राय टू अंडरस्टँड. असे ऑर्गॅनिझम जे स्वतःची एनर्जी किंवा स्वतःसाठी ऑर्गॅनिक सबस्टन्सेस स्वतःच तयार करून घेतात त्यांना म्हटलं गेलंय ऑटोट्रॉप. आणि हेटेरोट्रॉप जे स्वतःसाठी न्यूट्रिशनल ऑर्गॅनिक सबस्टन्स तयार करू शकत नाही, त्यांना दुसऱ्यांवर डिपेंड राहावं लागतंय, अशा ऑर्गॅनिझमला म्हटलं गेलंय हेटेरोट्रॉप. ओके. चौथा क्रायटेरिया जे विटेकरने वापरला होता या क्लासिफिकेशनसाठी, 5 किंगडम क्लासिफिकेशनसाठी, तो चौथा क्रायटेरिया म्हणजे लाईफस्टाईल. नाउ स्टुडंट, organism is basically get classified into the three classes on the basis of their lifestyle. Organisms are classified into the three classes on the basis of their lifestyle. Now what I want to explain की जेवढेही organisms आहे, all organisms which are present in the ecosystem, they requires the energy to live, and organisms are grouped into the three different classes on the basis that how they are able to produce their energy. लक्षात असू द्या. All the organisms which are present in the ecosystem, they require energy to live, and organisms are grouped into the three different classes on the basis of procedure how they are getting the energy. And these three classes are said to be the producers, consumers, and the decomposers. Producers, consumers, and the decomposer. जेवढेही ऑर्गॅनिझम आहे ते स्वतःसाठी एनर्जी तयार करून घेत आहेत किंवा त्यांना लाईव्ह राहण्यासाठी दे रिक्वायर्स द एनर्जी, आणि ते कुठल्या प्रोसेसने स्वतःसाठी एनर्जी तयार करून घेत आहेत त्याच्या आधारे त्यांचं क्लासिफिकेशन तीन क्लासेसमध्ये झालेलं आहे: प्रोड्युसर्स, कन्झ्युमर्स अँड द डिकम्पोजर्स. नाव हू आर द प्रोड्युसर्स? नावावरूनच लक्षात येत आहे प्रोड्युसर्स कोण. प्रोड्युसर, they are able to produce their own energy from the sunlight, and it is start of the food chain. They are said to be the starting of the food chain. Producers म्हणजे plants. Now, as you know, or as we know very well, that plants are able to produce their own energy. Plants are able to produce their own energy, and that's why they are called as producers. Consumers कोण आहे? इथे ब्रॅकेटमध्ये मी सांगितलेलं आहे, consumers means animals. Consumer need to eat other organism to obtain their energy. मीन्स कन्झ्युमर्स दे आर नॉट एबल टू प्रोड्यूस देअर ओन एनर्जी. कन्झ्युमर स्वतःची एनर्जी स्वतः तयार करू शकत नाही. दे दे रिक्वायर टू ईट द अदर ऑर्गॅनिझम्स. कन्झ्युमर्स रिक्वायर टू ईट द अदर ऑर्गॅनिझम्स फॉर प्रोडक्शन ऑफ द एनर्जी, फॉर प्रोडक्शन ऑफ देअर ओन एनर्जी. सच organisms they are called as and the consumers. While decomposers, they are said to be the last part of the food chain. फूड चेन मधलं हे लास्ट पार्ट आहे. Decomposers, they are said to be the last part of the food chain, depending upon the food chain or the food web producer. So what I want to explain, decomposers are simply said to be the those organisms which are responsible for the decomposition of the food material, and after decomposition and breakdown of the nutritional material, they acquires the energy. त्यानंतर त्यांना एनर्जी भेटते. तर लक्षात असू द्या, ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ लाईफस्टाईल द ऑर्गॅनिझम्स आर classified into the three classes, that is producers, consumers, and the decomposers. Producers means said to be a plant which are able to produce their own food. Consumers, they are simply said to be the animals which are not able to produce their own food, but they have to eat the other organism for the production of energy. While decomposers are the organisms or living organisms which are responsible for the decomposition of the food materials or the energetic materials, and after that they acquire the energy for their survival. So that is in the concern of lifestyle, the fourth criteria which was used by the Whittaker for this five kingdom classification. And the last one, that is the phylogenetic relationship. Now on the basis of phylogenetic relationship, it was again pertaining toward the prokaryote to eukaryote and unicellular to multicellular. So student, hoping that you have been understand की विटटेकरने हे जे पाच किंगडम क्लासिफिकेशन केलेलं आहे ते कुठल्या आधारावर केलेलं आहे, कुठले असे पाच क्रायटेरिया होते जे त्यांनी सिलेक्ट करून या पाच किंगडम मध्ये लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझमचं क्लासिफिकेशन केलेलं आहे. फर्स्ट वन, दॅट इज द सेल स्ट्रक्चर, प्रोकॅरियोटिक सेल अँड युकॅरियोटिक सेल. Pro means false, karyotic means nucleus, false nucleus, eukaryotic represents true nucleus. Unicellular having a single cell, multicellular having a number of cells in order to perform the various different functions of the organism. Autotrophs means they are able to produce or to means they are able to form the nutritional organic substances from the simple inorganic substances. Heterotrophs, they are said to be the other source feeding, means they are not able to produce their own nutritional organic substances. Lifestyle, producers, consumers, and decomposers. Phylogenetic relationships, prokaryotic to eukaryote and unicellular to multicellular. Moving on toward the next slide. This system placed all the living things into one of the five basic kingdoms, and these five kingdoms are represented here in this particular tree diagram. आता इथे या दुसऱ्या स्लाइडमध्ये तुमच्या लक्षात येईल की कुठल्या प्रकारे विटटेकरने पाच किंगडम मध्ये लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझमचं क्लासिफिकेशन केलेलं आहे, आणि ते पाच किंगडम कुठले कुठले. द फर्स्ट वन, पहिलं जे आहे दॅट इज मोनेरा. स्लाइडकडे लक्ष असू द्या. द फर्स्ट किंगडम इज सेड टू बी द मोनेरा. Second one is said to be the protista. Second one is said to be the protista. Third one is said to be the fungi. Third one is said to be the fungi. Fourth one is the planet. or we can I can call it as the plantae. The fourth one is the plantae, and fifth one, that is the animalia. The fifth one is said to be the animalia. So student, try to understand what I want to explain. I want to explain that according to this five kingdom model, or the five kingdom classification model given by the Whittaker, the animals or the living organisms are classified into the five different kingdoms, and these are the five different kingdoms of the classification. The first one is said to be the Monera, second one is said to be the Protista, third one is said to be the Fungi, fourth one is said to be the Plantae, and fifth one is said to be the Animalia. So these are the five kingdoms of the classification which was given by the Whittaker. नाव वी हॅव टू स्टडी आपल्या सिलेबस अनुसार आपल्याला काय शिकून घ्यायचंय. वी हॅव टू स्टडी अबाउट द सॅलियंट फीचर्स. वी हॅव टू स्टडी अबाउट द सॅलियंट फीचर्स ऑफ दिस फाईव्ह किंगडम क्लासिफिकेशन. सो द फर्स्ट वन दॅट इज द मोनेरा. मोनेराला पुढेच दिलेलं आहे प्रोकॅरियॉट. प्रोकॅरियॉट म्हणजे काय? The organisms or the living organisms which were having the false nucleus, which were not having a distinct nucleus in their body structure, which is not having a true nucleus, such a organisms, they are classified in the kingdom of Monera. पहिलं kingdom कुठलं आहे? Monera. So student, I am going to explain you about the salient features of this particular first kingdom, that is the Monera. पहिल्या पॉइंट कडे लक्ष असू द्या. This kingdom includes all the unicellular and the prokaryotic organism. Monera मध्ये कुठले कुठले organisms आहे? It was consisting of the unicellular and the prokaryotic organism. Unicellular तुम्हाला माहिती आहे की ज्यांच्यामध्ये फक्त सिंगल सेल असतो. प्रोकॅरियोटिक म्हणजे ज्यांच्यामध्ये फॉल्स न्यूक्लियस असतो. तर आता मोनेरा किंगडम, द मोनेरा किंगडम includes all the unicellular and the prokaryotic organisms that lack a well-defined nucleus and the membrane-bound organelles. Bacteria occur everywhere and they are microscopic in the nature. तर मोनेरा मध्ये बॅक्टेरियाचं एक्झाम्पल दिलेलं आहे. सेकंड पॉइंट, they possesses a cell wall form of amino acid and the polysaccharides. Bacteria can be autotrophic and the heterotrophic. Now what I want to explain next thing, the next thing is that Monera, they are having the cell wall which is formed of and the amino acids and the polysaccharides. आता या मोनेरा किंगडम मध्ये जे क्लासिफाईड झालेले ऑर्गॅनिझम ते कुठले? युनिसेल्युलर आणि प्रोकॅरियोटिक ऑर्गॅनिझम्स. आता त्यानंतर सेकंड पॉइंट काय म्हणतंय? दॅट मोनेरा किंगडम मध्ये असलेले ऑर्गॅनिझम्स, दे आर हॅव्हिंग द सेल वॉल, बट देअर सेल वॉल इज मेड अप ऑफ द अमायनो ऍसिड्स अँड द पॉलिसॅक्राइड्स. दे आर ऑल्सो कन्सिस्टिंग ऑफ अँड द ऑटोट्रॉपिक अँड द हेटेरोट्रॉपिक ऑर्गॅनिझम्स. Third point, they are the both autotrophic and the heterotrophic. Photosynthetic or chemosynthetic, and heterotrophic, that is the parasitic and saprophytic. Understand? So this I am explaining you की या किंगडम मध्ये कुठले कुठले ऑर्गॅनिझमचं क्लासिफिकेशन केलेलं आहे. एक तर युनिसेल्युलर आणि प्रोकॅरियोटिक, दुसरं म्हणजे ऑटोट्रॉपिक अँड हेटेरोट्रॉपिक, तिसरं म्हणजे या किंगडम मध्ये असलेले जे ऑर्गॅनिझम्स आहे त्यांच्या सेल वॉल मध्ये अमायनो ऍसिड्स असतात आणि पॉलिसॅक्राइड्स असतात. चौथं म्हणजे रिप्रोडक्शन. Basically the organisms which are present in this first kingdom, they are getting reproduced by the asexual method of the reproduction. They are getting reproduced by the asexual method of reproduction, such as binary fission. Such as binary fission. Fifth point, subgroups are Archaebacteria and the Eubacteria, and the example of the living organisms which are included in this first kingdom of the Monera, that is the bacteria and the blue-green algae. These are the examples of the living organisms which are included into the first kingdom of the Monera, that is the bacteria and blue-green algae. तर स्टुडंट, होपिंग दॅट की तुम्हाला समजलं असेल की या पहिल्या किंगडम मध्ये कुठले ऑर्गॅनिझम्स आहे. सर्वात आधी युनिसेल्युलर ऑर्गॅनिझम्स, प्रोकॅरियोटिक ऑर्गॅनिझम्स, असे ऑर्गॅनिझम ज्यांच्या सेल वॉल मध्ये अमायनो ऍसिड्स अँड पॉलिसॅक्राइड्स आहेत. असे ऑर्गॅनिझम्स जे दोघं आहेत, ऑटोट्रॉपिक पण आहेत आणि हेटेरोट्रॉपिक पण आहेत. असे ऑर्गॅनिझम्स ज्यांच्यामध्ये रिप्रोडक्शन असेक्शुअल मेथडने केलं होतंय, दॅट इज द मेथड ऑफ बायनरी फिजन. They are classified into the two subgroups, that is the Archaebacteria and the Eubacteria, and the examples are bacteria and blue-green algae. Okay. Now the second kingdom. दूसरा kingdom कुठला आहे? Protista. The second kingdom is the Protista. Now in this Protista, या kingdom मध्ये कुठले ऑर्गॅनिझम आहे? They are unicellular and eukaryotic organism. बघा, मोनेरा मध्ये कुठले होते? युनिसेल्युलर आणि प्रोकॅरियोटिक. इथे नाउ दे आर कन्सिस्टिंग ऑफ द युनिसेल्युलर अँड द युकॅरियोटिक ऑर्गॅनिझम. सेकंड पॉइंट, some of them are pseudopodia, cilia, and flagella for motility. Some of them are having pseudopodia, cilia, or flagella for the motility. Means they are able to move from one place to the another place, and for this movement, they are having the flagella. They are having the cilia or the flagella on their body structure. त्यांच्या सेल स्ट्रक्चरवर, त्यांच्या बॉडी स्ट्रक्चरवर सिलिया आणि फ्लाजेला अवेलेबल असतो, ज्याच्यामुळे ते एका जागेवरून दुसऱ्या जागेवर मूव्ह करू शकतात. दे आर एबल टू लोकोमेट फ्रॉम वन प्लेस टू द अनदर प्लेस. थर्ड पॉइंट, they possesses autotrophic and heterotropic mode of nutrition. Same, Monera sarka. They are also having the autotrophic and the heterotropic mode of nutrition. Okay. Fourth point, Protista reproduced mostly asexually and sexually with cell fusion and zygote formation. Means they are having both the method of the reproductions. They are able to get reproduced by both the method of the reproduction, that is the sexual method as well as asexual method, but with the cell fusion and the zygote formation. They are having, or they are divided into the certain subgroups such as in the chrysophytes, then dinoflagellates, then euglenoids and protozoans. And the examples of the organisms which belongs to the second kingdom of the Protista, that is amoeba, euglena, paramecium. These are the examples of the organisms which are included under this particular kingdom of the living organism, that is the Protista. तर स्टुडंट, आता याचे सायलेंट फीचर्स लक्षात घ्या की मोनेरामध्ये मी तुम्हाला सांगितलं होतं इट वॉज कन्सिस्टिंग ऑफ द युनिसेल्युलर मायक्रो ऑर्गॅनिझम्स अँड द प्रोकॅरियोटिक. पण इथे प्रोटिस्टामध्ये काय आहे, दे आर कन्सिस्टिंग ऑफ द युनिसेल्युलर मायक्रो ऑर्गॅनिझम्स अलॉंग विथ द युकॅरियोटिक ऑर्गॅनिझम्स. Unicellular and eukaryotic. They are having both the type of and the mode of nutrition, that is the autotrophic as well as heterotropic. They are having the cilia and the flagella on their body structure, which is helpful for the movement of the organism from one place to the another place. They are getting reproduced by both the methods of the reproduction, that is the sexual method as well as by the asexual method. They are having different types of and the subgroups, that is chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, and protozoans. And the examples are there: amoeba, euglena, and paramecium. Sorry. Then the third kingdom. The third kingdom is said to be the fungi. They are unicellular and multicellular eukaryotic organism. डिफरन्स लक्षात घेत चला. पहिल्या याच्यात सांगितलं होतं फक्त युनिसेल्युलर आणि प्रोकॅरियोट. दुसऱ्या याच्यात सांगितलं मी युनिसेल्युलर आणि युकॅरियोट. तिसऱ्या याच्यात सांगतोय फंगाय. दिस किंगडम इज कन्सिस्टिंग ऑफ द युनिसेल्युलर ऑर्गॅनिझम, multicellular organism, and eukaryotic organism. It was consisting of and the eukaryotic organisms which are said to be a both, that is the unicellular as well as multicellular. Okay, so fungi, this kingdom is consisting of and they are unicellular and multicellular eukaryotic organism. Second point, the filamentous fungi composed of the slender, long thread-like construction called hyphae. The mass of hyphae is also called as mycelium. Okay, third point. The cell wall of the fungi is composed of the polysaccharide and the chitin. The cell wall of the fungi is composed of polysaccharide and chitin. They are distinct from the plants that they do not produce by the chlorophyll. They are not just like in the plant. The fungi, they are distinct, they are different from the plant. However, fungi are not able to produce their own food by means of the chlorophyll pigment. Fourth one, fungi are heterotropic in the nature. Fungi are heterotropic in the nature, which indicating that fungi, they are other source feeding. They are not having an ability to produce their own nutritional organic substance. ते स्वतःचा organic substance तयार करू शकत नाही. That's why fungi are said to be the heterotropic. Most of the fungi are the saprophytes. Some fungi are the symbionate and the parasites. The symbionate fungi live in the association with the algae called as in the lichens, and in association with the root of the higher plants called as in the mycorrhiza. Fifth point, reproduction in the fungi is mostly by vegetative method such as fragmentation, fission, budding, and asexual reproduction by the spores. So these are the various different methods of and the reproduction in the fungi. Fungi are basically get reproduced by vegetative methods of reproduction such as in the fragmentation, binary fission, budding, and also by means of the asexual reproduction by the spores. It indicates that fungi are able to get reproduced by both the method of reproduction, that is the sexual as well as asexual method. Examples of the fungi: yeast, which is a unicellular; molds and the mushrooms, which are the multicellular but eukaryotic organism. Unicellular also किंवा multicellular also, but they are the eukaryotic organisms, means they are having the true nucleus in their cell structure. Understand? So this was the third kingdom of the classification in concern of living organism, that is the fungi. Fourth, that is the plantae. The kingdom Plantae consists of multicellular eukaryote which is having the chloroplast. The kingdom Plantae, it was consisting of the multicellular organisms which are eukaryotic in the nature and having the chloroplast. Second point, they are completely autotrophic in the nature. They are completely autotrophic in the nature. Means they are having, or I can say they are self-feeding. They are completely autotrophic in the nature, means they are self-feeding. They are having an ability to generate their own energy. स्वतःची एनर्जी स्वतः तयार करतात. They are called as in the producer. त्यांना आपण producer म्हणतो. Okay. They are having an ability to form a nutritional organic substances from the simple inorganic substances, and that's why they are classified into the group of, or in the kingdom of, plantae. Third one, the cell wall mainly consisting of and the cellulose. The cell wall of the organisms which belongs to this kingdom of plantae, they are consisting of and the cellulose. They exhibit high level of the tissue differentiation and specialized body organs. Fourth one, plant have two distinct phases in their life cycle, that is the alteration of generation. Okay, these phases alter with each other. The diploid saprophyte and the haploid gametophyte phase. The length of the diploid and the haploid phase vary among the dissimilar group of the plants. Plants reproduce through the asexual vegetative propagation and the sexual method. And the example of the organism which was included in this particular kingdom, that is a plant. So student, try to understand what does this kingdom is consisting of, what are the salient features of this particular kingdom, that is the fourth kingdom, plantae. The plantae kingdom, it was consisting of and the multicellular organisms which are eukaryotic in the nature. They are having the chloroplast. They are particularly autotrophic in the nature, means they are able to produce their own food. They are able to produce their own energy. The cell wall of the plantae, or the organisms of the plantae kingdom, they were having the cellulose in their cell wall. They are getting produced by both the method of the reproduction, that is the sexual method as well as asexual method of reproduction. Plant reproduce through the sexual vegetative propagation and the sexual method, and the example is said to be a plant. Understand? Now the next one and the last one. The last kingdom, that is said to be the Animalia. The last kingdom is said to be the Animalia. This kingdom includes multicellular eukaryotes and lack of cell wall. This kingdom, it includes the organisms which are multicellular in the nature, which are eukaryotic in the nature, but they are lacking of the cell wall. They are heterotrophic in the nature. They are completely heterotrophic in the nature, means they are not self-feeding. They have to depend on the other source for the feeding. They are not self-feeding. They have to depend on the other for the source of feeding. They are not able to generate their own food, and that's why they are also called as in the consumers. They are not having an ability to produce their own nutritional organic substances. The animals are directly or indirectly dependent on the food, or dependent on the food on the plants. Their mode of nutrition is a hologic, means their mode of nutrition is said to be the ingestion. Many of the animals are adopt for the locomotions, means they are able to move from one place to the another place. They reproduce by the sexual mode of the reproduction. They are only able to produce by means of the sexual method of the reproduction. The organisms which are included in this kingdom of the animalia, they are not able to get reproduced by means of the asexual method of reproduction. The examples of the organisms which are included in this class of Animalia, they are said to be the insects, animals, birds, and the human beings. So, student, this was in the fifth class or the fifth kingdom of the organism, that is said to be the Animalia. So, I have been explaining you all the five kingdoms of the classification, that is Monera, Protista, Fungi. प्लांटी अँड ॲनिमालिया. तर त्यांचे सायलेंट फीचरही मी तुम्हाला इथे एक्सप्लेन करून सांगितले. ओके, सो आय हॅव बीन कम्प्लिटेड माय पॉइंट for the syllabus of I have been completed my point for the syllabus of this particular remedial biology from my side. मी जसं सांगितलं होतं की मी फक्त दोनच पॉइंट कव्हर करणार आहे या पर्टिक्युलर सिलेबसमधनं इन कन्सर्न ऑफ रेमिडियल बायोलॉजी. पहिल्या युनिटमधनं दोन पॉईंट मी शिकवणार आहे. पहिलं म्हणजे बायनॉमियल नॉमेनक्लेचर सिस्टीम आणि दुसरं म्हणजे 5 किंगडम क्लासिफिकेशन. So I have been completed the syllabus from my side in concern of the subject remedial biology. So thank you very much. I'm also going to share the PPT. मी प्रेझेंटेशनही शेअर करून देणार आहे तुमच्यासोबत, तर ते प्रेझेंटेशन तुम्हाला नोट्स म्हणून कामात येतील. सो थँक्यू स्टुडंट, थँक्यू व्हेरी मच.